Hey students, this is Miss Tron. I hope you're doing okay. So today I am going to teach you a little bit more about texture, and we're going to review radial balance. So a rubbing is when we transfer or gather a texture with a crayon. So that's one thing I'm going to talk to you about today. So basically, if you would like to make a rubbing, I'm going to show you some ways to do it. First thing you want to do, there's some steps to transferring a texture to a piece of paper. First thing I want to show you is that rubbings can be found in a lot of places. These are the tiles on our bathroom. These are actually made by rubbing a crayon over some coins. That's a really neat one I'll show you. This one is a rubbing from the tiles in our kitchen. And this is the sidewalk. And these are the bricks outside on my house. So first of all, we're going to start with technique, how we do or how we prepare our tools to make a rubbing. The first thing you want to get is a crayon. It can be one of the big chunky crayons, or it can be a skinny one like this. The next thing you're going to do is you are going to peel off the paper, and you can do that with well, if you're one of the younger kids, you may need a little help with this, but if you take a little pair of scissors, or you can just start to peel it with your thumb a little bit. But basically what you're doing is you're removing the paper from the crayon. So that's what I'm doing right now. So there I go. I have removed the paper from my crayon. Now the next thing is how we hold the crayon when we do a rubbing. Oftentimes kids will hold it like this, like they would when they're coloring. But when we're doing a rubbing, that's not the way we want to hold it. What we want to do is pinch it on one side like this. The reason for that is, so this is kind of a different view of what we're doing. If our paper is right here, the way we are doing the rubbing is we're pinching it, and we're going to use the crayon on the side, pressing down like this. So, first thing you got to find is a texture from which to make a rubbing. You can go outside to do your rubbing. You could find some things inside your house. So I'm going to use some coins. I thought this was kind of a fun way to make a rubbing. I'm just going to place some coins down. This is kind of something I discovered last summer that I thought was pretty neat, so I'm going to try it again. So I got all my coins down. There we go. Now, what I'm going to do next is I am going to take a piece of paper and lay that on top of the crayons. Now, I'm sorry, on top of the coins, or whatever my texture is. If I'm outside, I can lay my paper on top of the sidewalk, or I can lay my paper over some tiles, or I can lay my paper over the bricks on the side of my house, or whatever kind of siding my house has. But so once you have your texture, the next thing is you're going to put a piece of paper down. Now it works best if the paper is thin. Thin paper like copy paper, or thin paper like lined paper is fine, but it's preferable, if you can, to lay down a piece of copy paper. So I have this blue crayon I unwrapped. As you can see, I'm going to hold it on its side, and I'm going to press down very firmly and evenly. I'm not pressing down with just the tip of the crayon. I'm going to use the side of the crayon to make some, and pressing down. And when you work with a crayon, or over the coins, it's a little bit different. It's very bumpy. It actually has kind of a satisfactory sound to it. But I'm going to keep rotating it around like this, and I'm going to keep gathering the textures just like that. So now I have a texture. So another thing you could do is to go outside. One of your options today is just to go outside, take a bunch of paper with you, and just go on a texture walk. Find textures, maybe feel them. If you remember when we did the emu, we talked a lot about what things feel like. Maybe you could discover if it's hard or soft or bumpy or smooth, all those wonderful texture words, and put your paper down and, you know, just rub the crayon on top of it. So one option is just to go on a texture walk. Another option is getting back into what we talked about with radial balance, okay? And one of these snowflakes I'm going to make with the paper will actually have radial balance. The other one will not. It's just depending on what kind you want to do. But our other option is to take our paper and fold it and cut some shapes out of it. So I can take this really neat texture thing I made here, all these texture papers from my texture walk, and I can turn them into snowflakes. I might even be able to use them as decorations around the house. And they have these wonderful textures on them. So let's see what I'm going to do. First things first, with my paper, I'm going to fold it in half and then crease it down. So this is if you want to make the snowflake. Then I'm going to fold it in the opposite direction, just like that. Now, when I talk to kids about cutting out shapes from the paper, one thing that's really important is to make sure the shapes don't touch. If your shapes touch around the edge, it won't really hold, your snowflake won't hold together very well. So I try to have kids do just a few simple shapes, spacing them out, and also make them large. Larger is better than smaller. So on every corner, I want to do one thing, and on every side, I can do one or two things, but I want to keep it large. So one thing I could do is draw a little square. Notice this is not teeny tiny. It's about the size of a dime. If it's smaller than a dime, it might be too small. So I'm going to move along the edge, and now I'm going to draw a triangle. I'm going to move a little bit further over. Maybe I'll do a little curved line there, kind of like a quarter of a circle. What are some other things I could do? I could do a long rectangle. I could make another square here if I wanted. I could do a few large triangles. The trick is just make sure your shapes are not touching. So I've got all my shapes going on all my sides. Now, oops, here's my scissors. And what am I going to do next? I'm now going to cut out each shape. Okay, so here I go. And for those kids that are maybe even the kindergartners that haven't cut with scissors that much, one thing I want to say is make sure you cut with the back part of the scissors. That's usually where it's stronger. Another thing too, as you're cutting, make sure your paper is completely folded. If it's open, it's not going to work. Everything has to be folded as we're cutting to actually get a snowflake. So anyways, or a snowflake type shape. So here I go. And I'm just going around. Sometimes what I tell kids, if you have a little rectangle and it's hard to get that last little bit, one thing you can do is fold it up and cut it. So just cutting around the edges, really trying hard to stay on the lines that I made. Okay, so just cutting all around, just doing my best, using the back part of the scissors making sure I cut through all of the folded paper. Okay, so now I got it. And now I'm going to unwrap it, okay? And now, oh cool, I have this snowflake-like shape. Wow, that could be interesting, maybe if your parents will allow you to hang it up around your house, okay? So that's more of a rectangular snowflake. This actually has something called symmetrical balance. When it's symmetrical, it's the same on both sides. But I am going to show you how to make something that has more like radial balance. Now this is the way to actually take a copy paper and turn it into a square, okay? So if you actually want to do a snowflake that's a square, follow these steps. Take one corner and fold it up until it goes all the way to the top edge, okay? And by the way, if you're having a little trouble with this, just slow down. You can rewind, of course. Now I've got this extra little piece here on the side. And what I can do is just cut that off. Or I could even draw a line so I know where I'm going to cut. A lot of different methods you could follow. Okay, so now I'm going to fold it again. So this one's actually turning out more triangular, okay? So I have my little triangle, and I'm going to do the same method as before. I'm going to draw shapes around the edge. Remember, I can't have them be too small, and they can't be touching, but they're going to go all the way around the edge. One method to think about is make sure that your cuts, your little shapes you cut out, are at least as large as a dime or a nickel. So if you want to get out some coins for measuring, that's good. So I don't want them to be too small. Same thing again, I can go around, I could do a little curve shape. I just space it out. Remember, our shapes can't touch. I can make a triangle here. I can make even an unusual shape as long as it's something that's not too hard to cut out. We don't ever want things when we're drawing these shapes to be too complicated, because when things are complicated, they're a lot harder to cut out. Bigger is always easier to cut out. So now take a look what I'm going to do. I'm going to go around now and I'm going to cut all of my shapes out. So now I've got my shapes cut out. Let's open it up and see what it looks like. Oh, look at this. Wow, this looks really neat. I like how this turned out. Now, another method, if you're having trouble cutting it into a square, is you could just start with square paper. Maybe your parents could help you cut it into a square before you begin. But once again, let's go over the steps. Remember, when you do a rubbing, hold the crayon on the side, not the tip, and rub down on the side. So one of your options, as long as you know you're with a parent, is to go and do a texture walk all over your neighborhood and your home. It can be really good to go outside and just experience your neighborhood, maybe, as long as that's safe and you're with an adult. Or, around your house could be another option. So that's thing one. Thing two, so you could just do a texture walk if that's all you want to do. But thing two is to fold your paper twice and draw shapes that are large, about the size of a nickel or a quarter, and cut out shapes that are spaced out all the way around your paper, and then you'll have some wonderful Christmas decorations, even with a little bit of texture on them. So anyways, thank you so much for watching this video, and please remember to email me a photo of your art, and I hope you have a lot of fun doing this lesson. Thank you, bye.